Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar. So as always, we're going to dive into a lot of interesting topics, mostly in 3ds Max, obviously. But today we're going to be talking about something that I believe is quite special. And well, it's Christmas time, so why not do something that's going to be related to it? So guys, today we're going to start building this nice gingerbread house. And I think it's going to look fantastic. So let me know if you are online already or not, because we're about to start. Hello, Robson. Nice to have you. Great that you are with us. Rio de Janeiro. So that's a beautiful place. Need to visit it at some point. So I'm going to be walking you through the whole process of modeling our gingerbread house. Right now in our video description, you're going to be able to get your hands on this file, which is going to essentially let you build exactly what I'm building. But I am expecting you guys to be building adding your own ornaments and some detail that is going to make your house unique. We're going to try doing some fish scales. We're going to try to throw some elements, but I also will be stealing. I mean, I'm going to be trying to source some of the elements for my gingerbread house from a previous one that I've created, but I'm going to walk you through the whole process of how to make your own. So for those of you that just joined in, my name is Mike and I am a teacher for VizAcademy. VizAcademy is an online school that will teach you how to create beautiful renders in less than 7 days. So if you want to, you can check out our available dates. That's pretty much here, and that's gonna be the best thing you can do. If you want to make yourself a gift for this well, upcoming Christmas, probably joining our training for 2024 is going to be the best bet you can make, because if you are interested in design, architecture, or you just want to expand your skill set to, let's say, design a product, that's what you want to be doing. So without any further ado, let's get started. Hello everybody. Hello. Hi Masa, nice to have you. Val, Pascal, FN Design, also Ivona, nice to have you. That's really great to see you. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. So what kind of resources are we going to be using? First of all, we're going to be either using this floor plan, which is going to be quite simple, but let's make it even simpler and start with a simple box. The building or the house that we're going to be basing our, let's say, our webinar on is quite simple, because gingerbread house is not going to be something that is supposed to be super complicated. So I'm going to teach you how to add a very simple but yet good looking elements that can later be translated to, let's say, snow or or sand, or elements that will be slightly more lifelike. So hi Mike, hope you are doing good. Yes, I am. Asim, nice to have you. Sajal, hello. Hi from a city of Ardabil, from Iran. Wow. Okay, Iran is quite far away, so glad to have you. Okay, let's get started. As I said, the file for this webinar is available in our description right at the bottom to force you to read through everything I've typed in there, so it's going to be easier for me that way. Also, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to be doing, and oh, by the way, I need to point this out. This is beginner friendly, so we're going to do some shenanigans that are slightly easier than usual, but we're also going to try to walk you through it. So how I made this plane, I just made sure to create the proper proportion object, and then made sure to drag and drop the JPEG. The best thing you can do in your case is type in the measurements of that said image. So you're going to be able to see those in this dimension section, or you can right click for the properties and see that those details in the details of the image. So it's pretty much that. Width and height are going to be translating to width and length. So let's get started. Okay, hello from Lebanon. Nice to have you. Oh, I remember you as well. I have, now I can say that we have people returning to us, and that's amazing. So as I mentioned, we're going to try to do it as simple as possible. So I'm going to start with a simple box. Go to creation panel, click on box, and create it somewhere in the space where where our gingerbread house is going to reside. Next thing we're going to be doing is converting the object to editable poly. So right click, convert to editable poly, and just make sure to copy your object where the let's say rest of the images are. We're just going to rotate it by 90 degrees, like so. Remember, when you press A on your keyboard, it is going to automatically allow you to rotate by a certain angle. This is called angle snap toggle. We're toggling our snap. Okay, so at this point, I want to make sure that the height of my building is going to be pretty much like this. So it's going to reach where the roof starts or ends for some of you. Hi, how are you? Thank you, Savant. I'm really great. And how are you? By the way, guys, if you have something interesting to tell me, or you would like to ask some questions, feel free to do so right now, because this is obviously going to be a live webinar and I want to have a little bit of interaction with you. So connect, we're going to make sure to select all of the edges from top to bottom, and we're going to create two connections. Here we've got the spacing or pinching. So we're just going to pinch that away. Remember, this is a gingerbread house, so please do not try to be overly precise, and I promise I won't be. So next we're going to also add another line in between. So that's going to be pretty simple to do. One line at a time, and we've got it. Okay, we also need to do the same for the side, because obviously we don't want this to be too big or too small. So I'm just going to stretch this out, and we're going to add one line that's going to pretty much just cover the whole building. Okay, so what next? We probably need to extrude the front, because you can see that this detail needs it. Oh no, I forgot. I didn't create an instance. So right now in Corona 11, which is my new favorite tool, we're going to be using Object Replacer. So Object Replacer is something that is really going to come handy when building very simple or more complicated things. So advanced options are going to be turned off for now. Let's add this object. Just like that, and we're going to make sure to now select the other one that we want to replace. Go to advanced options again, check if the rotation is on, and make sure to start a preview. Voila, I've just made sure that everything is set correctly, instance is on, and we're going to be applying this. We're going to be using this tool way more today. So, and now I can just continue editing this object, and my object on the left is going to follow. Right now you can see that this width is not the same as that. That's due to the fact that this is top view, and we kind of took the roof, which was supposed to be the base of the building. That's going to be corrected later. So hello Nelson, nice to have you. What brings you to us? Tell us a little bit more about yourself now. Okay, we're going to try to extrude the first line, so we're going to just create our roof, and that's pretty much it. Again, we're going to just press 2 on our keyboard and move those vertices, so we're going to get exactly what we need. To snap our roof to the exact position, we're going to right click on snap angle toggle, right click, make sure that the vertex and midpoint are on, go to options, and then select and enable snap angle toggle. I mean constraints. So we're just going to press S on our keyboard and move those parts just like that. This way we've created a very nice looking house. Although the problem right now is that it has a few a little bit stretchy elements that we have to correct. So definitely that's going to be something to just correct a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to, oops, I've did it again. I've made a little bit of a mess. Let's correct the back of the model, and we're going to be connecting this part, or we can select this vertex and move it to the bottom. This way, we're not adding additional clicks to our workflow. So now let's weld those together, and that's it. Okay, so we're pretty much in the clear, but you can see that there's some weird looking shadows forming on my model. And if I take away the wireframe, it becomes obvious that those are smoothing groups. Smoothing groups are going to be often very annoying to you. So my advice for you when you will be modeling simpler objects is to select all the polygons at the same time. Make sure to go all the way to the bottom and clear all. This way, you're not going to run into this issue, and if we're going to be doing more gingerbread houses, this is going to be a godsend option. Hi there, because I struggle choosing between Max and Maya, and I want fun things to hear me learn. So Pascal, if you want to, what kind of fun things you want to do? Because Maya and 3ds Max are both coming from the same, let's say, the same company, so they're very similar. When it comes to 3ds Max, I enjoy it personally. I enjoy it more. It's just more aesthetically pleasing for me. That's a huge thing for me. But at the same time, I believe that Maya and 3ds Max are comparable. So it's mostly going to be what type of tutorials do you like the most. Okay, so we've got a few lines that we also don't need. So I'm going to double click, and remove. So pretty much we're going to be removing everything like that. Okay, so right now, this is the cleanest house we can create in this manner. Why does it really matter for us whether we are going to have any kind of detail on it or not? It doesn't. At the moment, it doesn't, because we're going to be using Booleans for this. So I'm also going to be deleting the top part of my roof, or let's say the bottom part of my house. So that's pretty much the floor. Mike, what is ray switch material in Corona and what it does? It helps reduce render time in Corona. Thank you, Asim, for that question. It's a very cool one. So when it comes to your material override, it is going to probably be one of those ray switch material override, to be exact. This is one of those... okay, I need to... just one second. I'll be right back. Okay, so I had this guy barged into my office. Sorry for that. No extra sounds from my dog render any longer. I just forgot to close the door, and he just barged in requesting or demanding pets. So unfortunately, I had to let it go. This sounded like a cage fight. It wasn't a cage fight. It was his collar, and it has the let's say elements to make sure that I can hear him, so I don't walk on him or something. And yeah, it's complicated. Anyway, let's continue. Now, this building is going to be quite simple, so we're not going to be overcomplicating the whole process. One thing that I also would like to yeah, I did name my dog Render because it's kind of funny. And now let's. We hear him. Now he left. So we thought. Okay, if he wants to join us to give his input at some point, I'm going to show it to you. But right now, unfortunately, I do not have any dog cam, but I'm working on it. So We're going to, first of all, move our pivot to the top, so it's going to be easier for us to place all of the, let's say, roof elements. As you've seen, our roof was created in a very easy way. It's in the middle of a middle of a middle. So right now, what I can do is set the pivot to this position, detach the roof itself. So we're going to create this object, detach, and OK. So the roof part has the pivot exactly at the top. What that allows me to do is to simply scale it up, and it's going to grow a little bit outside of the parameter of my main house. Very simple and cool trick to use, especially if you want to do a gingerbread house. Now we're going to just copy this, or what we could do is just do a little bit of a Control-Shift on our keyboard, move this object slightly higher, or we can use a shell modifier, but in this case I'm just going to go for it. In this solution, move it slightly higher, and we're going to make sure to attach those parts together. So this, and we're going to flip the normals on the second part, so flip them. Okay, okay, and now we're going to select both bridges, so you can see that now this is pretty much going to be 2 layers of our house, and we're going to bridge those, so we're going to have nice up and down values. But in the end, what we could also do, if you are in a little bit hurry, you can also add shell modifier, but I would recommend you to scale the object slightly further, so it's going to be easier to cut in a second. So we're going to add a shell modifier, go all the way to the bottom, because if we enlarge this a bit, you're going to see that, well, we're not getting symmetrical distribution. But to really mitigate that, we can go for straightened corners, and that's going to be fixed. But the more we add, the bigger problems we're going to get in areas like that. We could stretch everything down, but that's also going to be a problem. So I'm going to just lower the amount slightly, something around a gingerbread house thickness. So you decide. Now, we're going to also add a slice modifier, and we could just go through it and apply it by removing the negative. The problem here is that sometimes removing the negative, or let's say removing vertices in 3ds Max like that, can cause a bit of a ruckus, because we're getting a lot of annoying extra vertices. This is for some reason going to be just how 3ds Max wants to operate. So we're going to do a little bit of a workaround here. We're going to go to editable poly instead, go also for slice plane, which is exactly the same tool, but it doesn't have the same problem, or at least it didn't have 5 minutes ago when I was preparing for this webinar. So we're going to just go ahead and select what we need, Control I, delete what we don't need, and now we don't have any leftover vertices. The reason why that happens is that the slice modifier tries to be a little bit more precise. In 3ds Max, to be exact, all of the elements that we see will have additional vertices in them. So to really create a 3-dimensional object, you need to have at least a triangle. So it's going to be the minimum we need. And even though we display some kind of quads at the moment, 3ds Max is a little bit silly like that, and it's going to try to do its best to convince us that we're actually looking at quads, while it's actually working with the triangles that and parts aren't really shown to us. So don't worry about it. It's the easier way around. Okay, just a quick cleanup of topology, and now we pretty much created most of our house. I hope that you don't mind that we're not going to be super precise with doors and windows. It's a gingerbread house. So how do you learn 3ds Max? So my story begins like in 26 or even earlier. My friend's father was using 3ds Max, and he just started doing some different projects that didn't involve 3ds Max. So there was a CD laying around with some kind of program that I knew that can create some cool stuff. So I just borrowed it, and I installed it by, well, at that time, it was actually possible to lend a program to somebody. As long as you had the original CD, it was working. So At that point, I was just using it for a month or so, and well, I really liked it. And to be honest, I was lucky enough to get the license for a little bit longer, so that's how I started. But really, what helped me kick off was the student's license, because that is really a huge help for all of you that are just getting started. What I mean by that is, even by joining VizAcademy, you will be eligible to get your hands on the student's license like I did. So what does it mean for you as our student? You will be able to obtain 3ds Max, Maya, AutoCAD, Revit, and all the 3ds Max AutoCAD suite that is in the student's program. That really changed everything, and that was a huge game changer for a lot of my friends that also wanted to try out the software. So I strongly recommend you to visit their website, check if you're eligible, but the fastest and easiest way to make sure that you are is by visiting our website and just signing up to our training program. That's VizAcademy Co. UK. Okay. Hey Mike, you're doing amazing work. Could you please make a tutorial on how to make those animated lights synced in to music, like on your Behance page and the club project? Sad, we could do that at some point. That wouldn't be a bad idea, but I haven't thought about making that tutorial just yet. So the minus point element of using our modifiers like how's it called, shell, is that sometimes it's going to misalign one or two vertices, and we can hate on it a little bit later because of that. Okay, so what do we want to do now is to probably create a few windows. To add some kind of cutouts for our windows, that's going to be the easiest task ever, but we're going to be smart about it because we have to create our doorway. So we're just going to create some shape and then manipulate it, but we also have to do some extra steps to make sure that we're going to be able to use it, reuse it, and abuse it as much as we need. So let's get started. First, we're going to go to our creation panel, click on our shapes, and here we've got a circle. We can select auto grid, and by that we're going to be drawing on the first surface our mouse is encountering. If this doesn't work for you, make sure that your normals aren't flipped. So it would mean that the dark side of the polygon is facing towards the camera. That means that you're currently working with a flipped model. This is not a critical error because it's not going to have impact on the render in many cases, but it will have some impact on how your glass behaves and also how some modifiers work. So in this case, we're going to always ensure that our bright side of the polygon is towards our camera unless this is planned, unless we plan otherwise. So what I'm going to do is just create this doorway opening, and it's going to be simple circle. So the simplest shapes are always the best because they give you least headaches. Convert the object to editable spline, and we're now going to just select the bottom, shift, and drag. So what does it mean shift? I'm literally holding the left shift, and I'm dragging those objects. Okay, we can now select those elements, corner those, and delete the vertex in the middle, so it's going to be a nice straight line. Now what I want to do is just copy this doorway and scale it down a little bit. So I'm going to create a copy, and remember that there's a difference between scaling outside and inside of your editables. So what it means is, at the moment, if I'm going to scale this object like this, the scale of the object is going to be remembered. Also, if I'm going to change this object to renderable one, you can see that 1 centimeter looks different to 1 centimeter on this other object. So it's very important to remember that this is 1 centimeter and that's 1 centimeter, but this object represents 60% of the original. To, let's say, get rid of this, we can go to our utilities, reset XForm, and reset it. That's going to pretty much just reset the scale, so our measurements are also going to be correct. The easier way, or let's say a way that doesn't involve resetting anything, would be to go inside of your editable poly. For example, you can go to selection and scale it here. So this is going to pretty much retain the scaling as you're literally editing the object. So it's going to be a nice solution for this kind of problem that isn't really the biggest one to have, but it's definitely going to be something confusing if you don't know about the rules of 3ds Max. If you don't know anything about the rules of 3ds Max, and that's pretty much how it operates. So we can turn off the editable rendering for now because I just don't need it, and that's going to be my window. Let's just scale it slightly further. It's okay. Move it that way, and now I'm going to make sure to copy this window here as well. I'm going to make sure that this is an instance so it's easier for me to operate. Teacher, can you do Corona plugin replace? I didn't see very well. Bojack, I'm going to do that for you as you're my favorite horse. So obviously we're going to do that in a second. I'm right now preparing you for that trick, let's say, because I will be using it in a second. Okay, let's drop down those windows slightly, and I'm going to be using this window exactly for my walls. So we're just going to add this here. So copy. Okay, and let's do a bit of a mistake. Let's convert this object to editable poly. What's going to happen is my object is no longer going to be written, the editable poly is no longer going to be written in bold letters. So it's a little bit thinner, right? So what I just did is I collapsed the object. That broke the connection in my instancing. So let's assume that you made the same mistake as I did. Instead of creating an instance, you create a copy, and you're just going on with it and on and on and on. And that's okay, but at some point you're going to have hundreds of objects in your scene and you're going to regret doing that. But before you regret it, you're going to be probably very happy to hear that it's possible to get back from that situation, because we can hide everything, like literally hide everything. And let's make sure to just work on this make unique. Let's add a bit of detail. Before I even add the detail, I'm going to create a copy of all of my shapes because we're going to be reusing those in a second. So let's create our window frame. First, let's move this element here so it looks nicer. We're going to move this element here also for the same reason, and we're going to move this part slightly there. If I'm now going to turn on the renderability, you can see that it looks like a nice cute window, and that's exactly what we need. So we're going to keep it that way. Since this is an object that I want to work with editable poly, I'm going to convert. Oh no, now all of my windows didn't follow. So what we need to do is go to our object replacer, click on that. We can now set it aside. We need to make sure that our object that we want to use as our replacer is added to the list. Be very careful when doing it, because sometimes it can add too many objects and it's going to force you to start over. So you're going to have to clear all. Now we can select each element or each object that we can replace, and it doesn't have to be a spline. This could be light, lamp, chair, doesn't matter. If it's going to be a placeholder, we're going to be able to use it. Okay, now what we want to do is click Start Preview. By default, the advanced options are going to be off. So we can click Preview and you can see that the windows are identical everywhere. So what I want to do now is make sure to go inside the advanced options, start the rotation as well, and apply. This way I am absolutely sure that every element or every aspect of my object is being taken care of correctly. And you can see that now we've got all of the windows done. So unhide all, and we're still on it. But we still haven't really cut through our object at all. We can ignore that because gingerbread houses, when it comes to windows, often you're going to see that those objects are not even going to have cutouts for the windows. But we're better than that. We're going to add something because you're going to be super precise. Can we use a sweep modifier? Yes, we can. And sweep modifier is going to be great. But in this case, we're doing a very simplistic windows that are going to be somewhat made out of cream. So probably you don't want to go too far with those details because obviously it's going to be unnecessary. Okay, so we also need some kind of door, and right now we only have a line. So I'm going to quickly create a copy of this shape. create a copy. Okay, this copy is going to be now changed into rectangular object, and we're going to lower some of the values, but we're going to make it thinner so it's nice and cute. And now we've got this copy inside. Here I'm going to turn off all the options, and we're going to use one plugin that isn't really necessary in this case because you can do it manually, but I'm going to do it because it's easier. You can get this plugin from CG Source, and this is not sponsored, and its name is Floor Generator. So Floor Generator, let's go. Now we've got this super nice shape created, but that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to have to make sure that the maximum width of my shape is going to be slightly smaller, probably around 2 centimeters. Okay, we're getting closer, but that's not exactly what I wanted. So what I want to make sure that is going to happen is direction is going to be changed. So let's go ahead and add 90 degrees in our direction. Okay, the model is really messed up due to the fact that we've got a lot of Booleans. So this is one of those options that I typically lower, so it's going to allow the model or allow the elements not to intersect. Because if you're going to go too far, you're going to get into the artifact zone. That's not a pretty look. Also, what is visible is right now our object has very big gaps. So we're going to lower those up until 0 really, because why would we go for anything else? Also, we can play a little bit with the width if we want to have a bit more symmetry. I think this is going to be enough for me. Okay, this looks fine. Let's say that those are Kit Kat doors. So if they are, we could, for example, add a little bit more outline or a bit more of the extrusion on our shape. I want to actually lower it so it's going to look better. Now we've got our door done. To create a doorknob, we're just going to go for the simplest shape ever, and that's going to be a sphere. So let's just add it in. Perfect. So we also have a doorknob, and remember, we're creating cream right now, so this is not supposed to have a lot of detail because we're trying to make sure that everything is beginner friendly. Also, let's quickly go through some kind of reference. Yes, you're going to get this model for free right after our webinar. So it's going to be quite nice for you to have. But why I'm playing this is to show you some of the details we're going to be adding. Right now, we're just adding the front door. So, okay, looks fantastic to me, but this also just informed me that I forgot to add one very important detail, and that is going to be our top window. So in that case, I'm just going to either copy one of the shapes that I already have, or we can create a new rectangle. Mike, when you're using a railing tool in dog-legged or shape stairs, railings corner and get messed up, what's the solution for railing on costume stairs? When it comes to railings and it gets messed up, I'm going to be showing that in a second. But long story short, you have to use normalize spline modifier, which is going to make sure that all of the distances between your vertices are going to be closely aligned. This should really help your shapes whenever you're going to be using this kind of let's say approach, but it's probably going to require 1 or 2 extra clicks if you go for it. Okay, so I think my doors need to be a bit bigger, so this is going to look better. Okay, perfect. Now our house is almost mostly done, so I'm not going to be cutting out anything for the window for the door at the moment, so I'm just going to use this shape as my corner shape, delete this part, and we can just scale it slightly so that I can move it back into my model. So let's go. It's I'm only using because it's going to be easier, and I'm not going to be even aligning it because it's not necessary at this moment. Just to make sure that everything is similar, I'm going to change this to rectangular, and this is going to be very cool because again, we're going to make sure that everything is neatly aligned with one another. Okay, so we're pretty much past the first step where we are projecting all of the let's say main elements of our house. So at this point, I'm going to select all of the shapes and we're going to rotate it by 90 degrees. Okay, I no longer need I no longer even need this reference because at this point I only forgot about the chimney, but we're going to add it on our own. We're going to just YOLO it. Hello Rivcha, nice to have you. Hello Max, nice to have you as well. Great to have you all, guys. What do you think about Unreal Engine? Unreal Engine is a very nice software that I would probably like to use a little bit more, but at the moment I must be really honest. It's beyond the scope of flexibility I would like to achieve with 3D software. I mean, it just isn't flexible enough for me. I need a bit more options. I need a lot of modeling tricks, and at the moment that is not yet part of Unreal Engine, although it's really amazing software. And if anybody thinks that I'm bad-mouthing it, I'm not. I'm just saying that it needs a little bit of work before I will be able to use it for my workflow. Okay, so now we're going to do another trick. So we're copying all of the elements, copy, just to have some nice, backup. Extrude, and we're going to extrude all of those slightly. So we're going to create windows, cutouts out of those elements. Now we're going to make sure to select our movement mode, go to local, and we're going to only move one on the x-axis. This is going to force every object to work with their individual axis, and since we correctly created all with the right rotation, you can see that all of them are neatly aligning into our nice object. So here we're going to go ahead and add Boolean modifier, and I'm going to be using subtract. Now we're just going to go ahead and start adding any kind of details. So delete, okay, sorry, select. We're just selecting the elements, and you can see that I'm neatly cutting nice openings in my windows. You can keep the back of that wall because it's not going to be necessary for us to delete it, as we're going to be adding a little bit of cream as our frame and whatnot. So just make sure to make it aesthetic. Okay, so I believe that this is aesthetic enough, and we can continue. So having the base of our object, we definitely want to add the nicer detail, because we've seen a lot of detail on our edges, a lot of cream around our doors and at the bottom. So I'm going to now start doing the snowy stuff that you've been all waiting for. Okay, first let's just make sure that the windows are going to be also slightly deeper, just a little bit. And the first step in here is going to be to add subdivide modifier. Subdivide, you can see that now my object has many subdivisions, which pretty much made it into more of a grid. By changing the subdivision to adaptive, we're going to see that our object by default already looks messed up. That's really cool, because we pretty much want that, as our cream shouldn't be perfectly smooth like SpaghettiOs. It's going to have a little bit of deformations, and that's exactly what I want in here. So I'm going to keep this. If you want to be a little bit more, if you want to have a little bit more fun with it, you can also add normalize spline prior to it. So we can go for, oh, it's already editable poly, so okay, that's my bad. I should have added it. I'm going to do it with other objects later on. Okay, so now we have a little bit of detail here. We need some window frames, and we can decide what do we want more. Do we want a nice detail like we had in our video? So tell me, would you like white frames like here, or would you rather see me create this twist around some kind of, yeah, we're going to go for the twist. I think it's going to be most educationally valid for you guys, since you all came here to actually learn something. Okay, so this is going to be super simple. What we need to do is either create a cylinder and add the twist to it, or we can create multiple cylinders and add the twist to it. So I'm going to go for multiple twists. So because we want to entangle them, we're going to be literally using a modifier called twist. Make sure to create 1 or 2 cylinders. Make sure that they are intertwined to some extent. Hello from Greece. Hello, Elias. Nice to have you. How are you? How's the weather in Greece right now? I was always wondering about how's the weather in Greece and when it's December, because I've never been to Greece at that time. I always go to, when it's a little bit more sunnier, and I was just wondering, is it also nice? So here we're going to retain all the options that we had on our object initially, so it's going to be easier for us to add any detail or any necessary changes. So first thing I'm going to do is add a twist modifier, and we're going to quickly see that it's not going to be enough, but you know what, let's go for a 2x2 modifier like this, and now we're going to add twist modifier, and we're going to just add a little bit of angle. You can see that, well, it doesn't look good. Why doesn't it look good at all? Well, mostly because right now this object is being, let's say, changed without really getting enough, let's say, detail in it. So we're going to have to add a lot of height segments. So let's go for 35, or let's say just go for 200. It's going to be enough for us. Now we can continue with the twist and just add a little bit more of it. Now, since I did it, I'm going to have to go the same. I'm going to have to do the same thing for the second one. So they both neatly intertwined. Now we've got a candy cane. It's not the classic candy cane, but we're going to get there in a second. Okay, you can also change the twist, let's say, position if you want to do a little bit more flatter, or let's say a little bit, yeah, a little bit of that. Now, since I'm not into doing that, we're going to make sure to also lower the cylinder's size. So size are going to be set to, let's say 8, so that should be enough for us, but that's also going to, why is this object now? Oh, that's because 2x2 modifier. Yes, so we need to add it later. We're going to do it in a second. Okay, so go back to cylinder. Let's go for 8 in here as well. And that's going to open up a whole plethora of possibilities. Okay, a few more twists, like 10, 5. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to delete the 2x2 and actually add it back in. That way, what I'm going to be able to do in a second is going to be quite cool, because now we kept those shapes for us, right? Those are going to be used in a second. So since we've got those cones or canes, we're just going to go for one that's going to be white-ish, one is going to be reddish. So let's just make sure that it's super clear for us. So convert the object to editable poly, and that's going to get into the right position. Okay, so let's set one of those parts ID number 1, and just for the future reference, it's going to be easier to add all of the materials later on. And this object is going to be ID number 2. This is so that our modifiers, or let's say our objects materials are going to be able to find their way to the right objects. Hey, thank you for regular tutorials. Thanks for the dudes. You're welcome, Mihao. Nice to have you, and thank you for kind words. So we're just going to go ahead and add a few elements. Okay. First, we delete the bottom part because we don't need it at the moment, and we're going to have to attach those two for our convenience. We don't really need to do it, but it is going to really make everything more convenient. That also entails that we really need it to make sure that everything is going to have the right settings when it comes to the IDs. I mean, those are just two objects. It's easy to manipulate them anyway. But we now can also check out the pivot placer in 3ds Max, in Corona. There is a tool that's very similar in edit tools from the 3ds Max, but I found those to be quite cool because now we can pretty much do everything and more. Plus we can set the offsets, which is super cool. So start preview, we can see that our pivot was moved to the bottom. Okay, it works for me. And now this is when the fun begins, because we're going to go for path to form modifier. Please remember that we want to use path to form modifier, but without the path to form world scale modifier. I don't understand why the world scale modifiers even exist in 3ds Max, but they are there, and for a reason probably. Okay, so now we can see that we definitely need to make this object a little bit thinner because it doesn't look good. So to do that, I'm going to go back to editable poly, add the FFD modifier and 2x2, and this is a cool trick because what I can do now is I can select those parts and manipulate the modifier to just change the thickness of my detail. And that way, I don't need to further manipulate the modifier settings, and you can see that everything looks really nice. If I retained the twist and all the other options, I would still have a few more possibilities, but I was a little bit lazy about it, and I did it. Also, you can see that we can auto stretch it or not, which is also quite cool. Now, if you want to, you can set some offset, so we can allow it to go forward and backward, but what I want to do is just stretch it slightly outside of the window scope. And now we've got it. What I'm going to do is just copy this object into the right position. But to do that, I'm going to have to make sure that my pivot of the main object that I'm dealing with right now, so pretty much my new sugarcane, is going to have the right let's say the right detail or the right pivot. So what I want to do is make sure that my pivot, affect pivot only, is going to be aligned to another object. So align, and we're aligning this pivot. So affect pivot, position, 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 okay, and pivot to pivot to pivot, and okay. So this way, if I'm going to be replacing my object right now, you're going to see that it's going to be just easier for me to do so. Okay, so now take it away, and we want to select all of our shapes that we have left over. So we're no longer going to be reusing those, so I can use them right now. And since those are slightly, let's say, different, we're just going to make sure to select this object, again, go for object replacer, add it in, and now we just click and we've got it. Okay, so it seems like my object's pivot wasn't really correct. So what I'm going to have to do is Control Z, take it away, rotate it so it's on its back, and now I'm going to have to be forced to reset the X form of this object. Remove, clear it out, and that's why you probably want to make sure that you preview before you click, because if you're going to be changing hundreds of objects, you might go past the ability to. Okay, let's add this object. Okay, and now start preview, works, apply. Now we can delete what we don't need, and voila, we've got very nice frames along our windows. Okay, so let's continue. I want to make sure that those objects are going to be slightly messed up. So how do we do that? You've already seen me doing it to some extent, but we're going to now make it really cool. So first of all, subdivide modifier kicks in. Change it to adaptive, and it's going to instantly add more geometry. So let's lower the number on edge length. So in my case, it's going to be pretty much something around 1 or lower. It's all going to come down to what values you're going to be using. At this point, we can go for relax modifier and add a little bit of relaxation, but that's not going to help us a lot, although it's going to make this object a little bit more gooey, and you can kind of see how the utility in this, since we're creating a bit of cream. Now, noise modifier to further mess up our object one by one. Oops, I almost overdid it. And we can just, whoops, let's just add a little bit of that wobbliness. That's way too much, 0.4 and 0.4 by 0.4, perfection. And let's lower the size of our scale, so it's going to be nice and gooey, as I said. So perfect. Now I've got this whole stock of modifiers, which is essentially going to be my go-to modifier copy paste option for most of the objects that I need. So now we're making those gooey just like those were made out of cream. So that's pretty cool because it really saves you a lot of time, and I don't need to do a lot to get there. And yeah, again, it's a time saver. It's a huge time saver, so do it a lot. Hi sir, how are you? Hoping you're well. Yes, I'm very well, thank you for that, and it's amazing to have you. So let's restart the chat, and wait a second, where is it? Okay. Do you guys use 3ds Max, or do you also use different software? What is your go-to modeling software when dealing with, let's say, gingerbread houses? For me, it's obviously 3ds Max, but I would like to hear your opinion on the topic. So, Mike, a question here. Can you link up Revit with 3ds Max well or AutoCAD? Yes, you can. And there's literally an option to reference files. It's going to be reference XOR files, and you can go for asset tracking to find specific AutoCAD files or specific Revit files. It's actually very convenient to do so if you're working on in a bigger team and there is some kind of server where you're storing the files, because you might be working on, let's say, one part of your scene, updated for a different person, and then the let's say connection let's say updates, so everybody gets the newest info. And when the architects want to really annoy you, the graphic designer, by changing absolutely everything and you have to remake everything, voila, you've got the update. So yeah, there's a question. There's your question. 3ds Max for life. Thank you very much. That was my opinion as well. Hi sir, how are you? Thank you, Tech Drop. Nice to have you too, and I'm really fine. So now let's add the detail around our building. So first, let's convert this object to Adobe Poly yet again. Select the border at the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and create some kind of shape from selection. Linear, because we don't want to go too far, and you can see where this is going. First, I'm going to make sure to change it to radial, make it slightly bigger, so it's going to be covering up until we reach our doors. And since this is going to be on a pedestal, I could also delete the bottom part, and that would be probably smart, but I'm not that smart. So we're just going to continue as we are. So, okay. Make sure to add a little bit of palette to those elements. It doesn't matter that we also selected the middle part because it's not going to change anything for us. So let's add a little bit. Okay, and we want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. So this smoothness is going to be really nice once we actually mess it up by adding our instanced modifiers. Sorry, it shouldn't be instanced. I should have added the copy of it because this is a bigger object. So let's paste an individual version of the modifier, and look at that. We got cream all around our house. And now I can tell that this area is a little bit too sharp for a gingerbread house. So we probably could or should be either adding more detail around here, or we should be adding some chamfers. I refuse to chamfer this house because it's going to be a little bit easier for me to be lazy. So I'm going to create shape from selection as well and go for linear. And in this case, we're going to have creamy pedestals. So let's lower the size because we don't want those to be too big. We want those to be only a subtle detail around the house. So in this case, I'm going to also paste the same modifiers. And look at that. Everything is nice and creamy, has its own individual shape. We might be forced to move some of them, some of those elements that are a little bit too deep inside. So let's just make sure to move them outside slightly. So anything that's in depression, we're going to just allow it to go outside like you do with your friends. So now we're going to just make sure that it's those objects are better visible. Maybe change some scaling on our noise because I kind of don't like the way it looks like at the moment. And we've got most of our detail right now. Okay, so let's look at the reference once again. We also have this creamy top, right? So we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to do it better than I did it the first time when we were doing the preparations. So in here, the reason why we went for this whole shebang when we were creating the roof to make sure that the topology is clean, we're going to ring this, connect, and you guessed it, create shape from selection, linear. That's going to create a nice smooth object, and in this case I'm just going to ensure that it's nice and big. That's going to be the biggest chunkiest element, and we probably want to also add the chamfers at the top, because now if I paste my modifier stock that we already talked about, it's going to take us a while to get there, but we're going to eventually have a nice creamy detail. If I don't want this to be as sharp, I should probably add either some nice, let's say, relaxation, or I can also add the fillet. But the fillet is going to be probably a little bit problematic at this point because it is going to cost me to work a little bit around the modifiers. So let's take this away. yes, and you can see that here the detail, once I add the let's say fallets on those roof edges, is going to look a little bit weird. So instead I'm going to go for chamfer, but that's also going to cut through. So in this case, let's go for a fillet as well, and let's check how it works. I lost the detail, so I need to go further down and reshape my roof slightly by moving those elements slightly to the top. So we're just going to move them, and that looks nice. Okay, it doesn't. So we have to go back. I didn't like it. We're going to go back to the subdivisions. Okay, let's allow it to take place. 1 second. Yes. Thank you. Relax. Okay. Now, subdivide is set to too low value for this object. So I'm just going to go ahead and go for 8 in here. So it's going to definitely rescale it, and we're going to have less detail. Okay, so why did I go for less detail since we're actually doing a gingerbread house? We're doing a kind of close up on it because I want this mesh to be a bit more primitive. So I can actually convert this object to editable poly real quick. Go to my polygon or any other option, go to push and pull, relax, and we're just going to change the brush size a little bit. Brush strength goes down, and we can just relax the top a little bit so the cream is no longer going to have as sharp edge as it had before. So we have to just click on it a few times. Okay, I think it looks way better, but honestly, still kind of, okay, I actually like it. I actually like it. We can also select it slightly and go for, let's say, smooth selection. Where is it? Geometry. Okay, smooth selection. It's higher. Soft selection, and we just enlarge it slightly. So this top is going to be nicer. I select the polygon that I really don't like, and let's scale it down so it's no longer a cap. It actually looks nice because now it looks like somebody just left or let's say stopped pouring at that area. Christmas themed architectural fun. It is. 3ds Max is great architecture and such. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Maya is more used in video, CGI, and animation. Here, it's actually not correct. I mean, Maya is definitely preferred by video studios because it has a few tricks up its sleeves that 3ds Max also kind of has, but those tools in 3ds Max are kind of upside down, and it's not that they're lower quality or we cannot use them in a similar manner, but it is definitely going to be something that you want to avoid. So I see that my subdivision is probably problematic in this area, so I'm going to be able to fix it in a second if I need to, but for now we're just going to continue by selecting elements, and we're just going to create another simple shape. So here we're going to create shape from selection, linear again, and we're going to go for the top, linear again. So we've got 2 separate elements. Definitely that's going to look awful. So we have to remove this by either adding chamfer, splitting those, or adding fillet. So we're just going to fillet that, and that's going to add this smooth transition. Perfect. Now the last part is this. So we're going to do exactly the same thing, linear. Okay, so those are way too thick. I want them to be slightly smaller, or let's say not as refined. So we want to make sure that those elements are going to nicely melt inside of the other parts, because this is quite important for us to actually make sense out of it. It's a gingerbread house after all, so it has to be well, consistent with our design. Okay, so now we've got pretty much all of the details done, but do I want to add the modifier as I did the last time? I kind of do, but we're going to do it a little bit differently, because this time what I'm going to start with is Boolean union and start unionizing those elements. This way I'm not going to have any mesh inside. You can see that all of the mesh was pretty much removed, so now all of those parts are neatly connected, so the cream is going to look better. Paste on top of everything, so we're just going to either crash to 3ds Max or it's going to look fantastic. Look at that, no topology was needed, and we've got really nice connections around here, so we can just lower the noise because again it looks a little bit too crazy, and convert the object to editable poly if we have to, but now we've got all of the detail we needed. Okay, I kind of needed to go lower on this part as well, but I'm just going to scale it down later on. Okay, so we've got a little bit of our Christmas house done in under an hour. I mean, it's a simple Christmas house, so we cannot go into too much detail, but we can do a little bit of patterns on the top of the roof, and this is something I was really looking forward to. So first, let's make sure that we've got some kind of chimney created. That's going to be exactly the same trick. So we're actually not using any tricks. We're just creating objects in midair like this. Okay, you know what? Let's go for 2 chimneys because that's what Broach does. Convert the object to a poly. This time we're going to make sure to attach the other part as well. So create shape from selection. Nope. Where is it? Attach. Okay, sorry, I need to enlarge this because right now during webinars it's always going to be something that I'm a little bit confused about, because I mean not by the webinars, but during webinars my brain goes different places, and it's really hard to find the simplest shapes, the simplest tools. It's just a little bit of you know, stressful to talk to so many people like we're doing right now. So linear, and we do the same thing. This time I want to actually add the chamfers because that's really going to help. So let's add it here. Okay, so those are going to be nice and round. Paste. We've got a little bit of that. Look how cute they are. Look. And now, with all of that, we can also create custom elements for our roofing. So select. Okay. Now, what I want to do is still retain my auto grid for rectangle. Auto grid. And now, just looking at the top view, I can create this object like this. Okay, but Mike, you're just creating a shape. What's so fantastic about it? Well, mostly the fact that I've created it on the right angle because I had the auto grid on. We're going to be using auto grid in a second, and I'm going to show you something super cool. So, okay, let's re-add the modifier, paste. Okay, 3ds Max is too complicated program, more difficult than SketchUp, but included everything plugin. I don't think it's actually more difficult. That isn't really something I would call 3ds Max. It's a little bit less friendlier when you start using 3ds Max, but you definitely want to think about it as it takes a few extra steps to get you started, but once you start using it, it's way easier than any other program that I ever used. So definitely something to think about. Okay, we've got quite a lot of nice detail, but now we need a few ornaments on the sides. So I'm going to show you how you can draw them and how we can create specific shapes. But now, having in mind that we already know how easy it is to create the creamy, dreamy look on our elements, we kind of want to make sure that everything is going to also have similar shapes or similar idea behind it when we will be adding rest of the detail. But first, let's create a fish scale pattern on our object. So what I'm going to be doing is obviously starting with a simple circle or a line. I'm going to start with a line because it's easier. Okay, now let's turn off the renderability so everybody can see what I'm doing. Select this edge, divide it in half. Okay, and it doesn't work. Why? Because at the moment it had Booleans. I was holding my left mouse button when I was creating this object. So because of that, the Beziers are forcing this object to have a little bit of different gravity, let's say. So I want to first corner this and then select my polygon and then divide it, because that's just 3ds Max being helpful. Yeah. Now, we want to create this and we want to continue by just creating a few copies of our shape. Let's hide everything we don't need, and let's make sure to start adding those elements. So by the way, guys, this is one of those webinars where we are just having a little bit of fun, having a little bit of chat. So it's going to be really helpful if you will be participating by asking some questions. I'm always happy to answer your questions, obviously, when we're online. It's going to be a blast to have a bit of more conversation along the way. But also, I would recommend, if you want to get a little bit more professional help and a little bit more professional skills, I strongly recommend you to check out our training which is available on VizAcademy Co. UK. I am pretty sure you're going to enjoy it because so far all of our students did. So here, what I'm going to do is ensure that we also add a little bit of Bezier. So let's add the Bezier, and by default, it's going to look like this. It's bad because it has a weird angle. We don't want that. So we're going to first smooth it, which is going to create a nice gravity around it. And you can see that only the middle part has the specific Bezier that I wanted. So that's why I've added the extra parts. So that's going to help us and get the shape, well, a little bit better. Now, I want to redo the same thing I did a second ago here. So, okay, let's make sure that we weld everything together, corner everything, and we can just add a few of those smoothie elements. Okay, smooth on. Now let's restart, corner, smooth again, and it instantly looks better. Now let's continue by attaching the part at the bottom, re-weld this, and we're going to just make sure that everything doesn't have the Beziers, because by welding, we're going to create the Beziers. So we corner this, and we then add a little bit of a nicer smoothness. So smooth, and we've got it. So now we pretty much just created our pattern. So what do we do with it? We obviously will be rendering it. So we want to render it in viewport, make it way thinner, something like this. And we're going to be manipulating the size in a second. So don't get too ahead of yourself by asking questions. Okay, so we've got, do you prepare for modeling before streams? I mean, do you know everything about 3ds Max? Do you know how to handle difficult shapes? For me, it seems impossible to learn every modifier in 3ds Max. So the list of modifiers in 3ds Max is limited, and it's not something really that you should be afraid of. And just test yourself, model something. Do I prepare for each webinar? Yes, I do. I do not just go, let's say, commando during the webinars. I try to treat this with the utmost respect. So I kind of try to prepare as much as I can. Obviously, I cannot prepare for each stream with the right level of preparation that I would like to achieve, but it is something that you definitely want to do when you're expected to perform online. So yes, I definitely do prepare for the webinars. If it appears like I'm not, I'm just making it look a little bit easier, but to be honest, it is actually easy. But yes, I do prepare for the streams, so I hope that this helps. Okay, and now the last part also fillet. Okay, perfect. Now we got nicer shape, and this is going to be the base for our pattern. So we're going to be cutting it in a second, because now if I'm going to add the modifiers that we used so far, this is going to look cool on our roof, right? But we need more of it. So to get more, I'm going to just go for symmetry and just move the symmetry, because symmetry can be used as a modeling tool at any given time. And it's quite easy to do so, because now all I need to do is add another symmetry modifier and just make sure to move it further away. I can just move it closer, align it to the right vertice, and you can see that now I am able to add as many shapes and patterns as I want. And I don't need to be really limited by just adding this element one by one, because I can do multiple shapes if I'm going to use array instead. But I just chose to use this modifier because I found it to be quite easy, and it's going to be a beginner-friendly tool to use. Okay, so symmetry. Now, quite contrary to what I said a second ago, we're going to convert this object to a editable poly, because now we're going to delete the top part actually, and to make sure that the pattern continues, I'm going to add array modifier, but not on the x-axis as default suggests. We're going to add it on y-axis, so it goes up. So now this is going to be the pattern for our roof. There's a lot of polygons, and there's a lot of polygons in here, so we're going to take care of them in a second, but this object doesn't require a lot of further work. Oh no, this is too big. What are we going to do? Well, first of all, we're going to align it the way we want it. The best thing I can do is effect pivot only center, so I'm going to center it out so I can just now snap it to the middle of my object. because I want this to go like this, I'm going to make sure to position it on my roof exactly. We're going to be placing those shapes on all of the sides. There is a very nice tool called Corona pattern that would help me with this task tremendously, but I don't want to make this harder for you guys when you will be repeating the process for your own holidays, because I don't want this to, let's say, be one of those tutorials where you have to stop at 10,000 times. This is just nice and easy. Okay, so I believe that this is going to do the trick, because our shape is already neatly aligned. We're not going to do a lot more to it, because, oh, wait a second, I need to, oh no, I already did it. I should, okay, I can remake it, but I don't want to, so I'm not going to. So symmetry, so not symmetry, slice. We go for slice modifier, and now we're going to be deleting everything on x-axis, but only on one side. So we go here and we slice the negative or positive depending on our object orientation. Slice again, so we're going to change to x-axis, and we're going to go ahead and remove the positive or negative depending on our object's positioning. We can also change the scale of our object if we want to a little bit, but in this case 2x2 modifier is really going to be enough for me. So I'm just going to move this slightly, and now we've got all of those shapes neatly positioned on our gingerbread house. Look how cute it looks. On integral lights, spots, LEDs, chandeliers. Okay, we've got a little bit of action on our chat. Allow me to just read through it, because there's a lot happening. 3ds Max for life, sir. Okay, great architecture and such. Okay, hello, sir. What is a gingerbread house? Well, gingerbread house is pretty much a house made of ginger. So you bake it, and then you make a nice house, so you have a little bit nicer holidays when you arrive to spend your time with your family. Christmas-themed architectural fun. Greetings from Uzbekistan. Is there any plans about a 5D render? I saw their trailer about 5D, and it's amazing. I would say that yes, at some point we're going to have to talk about it, because I'm starting to slowly incorporate it into my workflow. But I must say that years ago when they started, I was like, meh, I don't like it. But now it's actually getting really cool. So closer and closer, we're getting to a point where there's more competition on the market. So either our software is going to get better, or it's not going to be our software. So that's definitely the coolest thing I can tell. So push modifier to make sure that our objects polygons are going to be slightly enlarged, so they fit my theme a little bit better, because this is the cream, right? So now everything is really, really nice. Let's copy this to the opposite side, and we're going to try to cut it using Booleans or other means in a second to make sure that it doesn't go too far. But honestly, we're going to probably use a slice modifier as we did a second ago. So view, since we've already established the right angle for our roof, I don't need to do too much. So I'm just going to select it, and let's place it in the right position. It melts right in. So perfect. We need this also for the sides. So I'm going to make sure that we rotate it by 90 degrees. And this is going to be problematic, because obviously this part is not like the others. It has a weird angle. So you guessed it, we're going to be using the same modifier as we did a second ago, and that's going to be our slice modifier. Okay, so the angle is different. Okay, let's change it. Let's manipulate it further. Turn off the snap angle toggle. If you want to be super precise, right click on select and rotate, and we're going to be rotating it on the right axis. So in this case, it's x-axis for me. Okay, I don't want to scale it any further, so I'm going to go for local, move it down so it's going to get closer to the edge. Okay, and now we're going to be moving one of the slices, especially the one on both sides. So we're going to move it in the middle, and we want to cut it like that, so it doesn't go too far out of our model, right? We also should move it slightly towards the bottom still, but I kind of like what I got. So slice the opposite side. Perfect. Now it's easy. Okay, but we still have a little bit of leftover at the bottom, and it seems like the okay, 2x2 modifier didn't do the job as intended. So we're just going to rotate the element slightly. Okay, and push it towards the top. Okay, now we need to delete or slice off those elements at the bottom. So slice again. Let's make sure to remove the negative, and anything negative in our life needs to go. And we're just going to put it slightly lower. So we're going to get on the edge so it's easier for us to continue. And now what we need to do is just copy the object and mirror it. So copy, okay, and we can just go ahead and now mirror, just like that. I know that this is just a gingerbread house, so we shouldn't be going for such detail, but at the same time, look at that cutie. I really enjoy this. The best part, let's say larger part of our building is already done. Now it's time to add ornaments, and those can be tricky at times. You can either use splines or you can use freehand splines. If you have a tablet, I strongly recommend you to use freehand splines, but those are not necessary, obviously. We're going to just make sure to add a few of them, but honestly, I think I'm just going to open up my second scene and copy a few of them. I'm going to show you how I would be adding the detail to some specific areas, and then we're going to just make sure to copy a few parts, or we can just move the scene into the rendering section, where I'm going to walk you through the setup for our scene, how easy it is, and what you can do to get the same result without really risking your sanity. So let's see. 3ds Max is great when you get used to it. I prefer it. Okay, hi Mike. I really want to move to V-Ray from V-Ray to Corona renderer, but all my materials and model libraries are V-Ray. How can I handle that if it's difficult? Is it difficult and to replace every model materials to Corona? F&A design, that's literally like a setup question. I don't even well, it's just so easy that I don't believe you asked this question, because it's just the perfect question to ask. So open Corona Converter and you click. That's it. You literally will get almost one-to-one results from V-Ray to Corona, and that's it. You basically need to one-click everything. If those libraries are already saved in V-Ray format, and you've got your libraries that are listed in your material editor in here, unfortunately, you're going to have to drag and drop them and then convert them and maybe save the newer versions, because that's going to be a little bit smarter. But unfortunately, that's the downside of migrating software, but at the same time, it's not going to be something that you cannot really do. Okay, so file, let's file the gingerbread start. Okay, House VizAcademy, gingerbread version 3. So I'm going to open the third version because I was remaking it a few times just to have a little bit of fun. I came up with some nice shapes on the sides. Oh, nope. Oh my god, I actually lost some of the shapes. Okay, let's go. So we're going to go commando. We're going to create some. Okay, no worries, no panic. We're just going to start creating our shapes because, well, I thought I've got them prepared, but I don't. So to create nice ornaments, what you can do is go for freehand, and before you start drawing, you're going to click on constraint and pick object. So that's going to be our box. That way, we're going to be able to do something that is super cool. We can deselect and we can start drawing here. Wait a second. We can start. Wait, what's going on? Okay, my snaps are autogrid. It's the autogrid. Let's turn it off. Okay, now let's freehand. Make sure that the constraint is on. Pick object, and that's going to be our box. Perfect. Now we want to deselect this and we can start drawing, and we can now draw from one side to another, and I'm drawing on the object. So if I want to add finer detail to or some kind of zigzag at the bottom, it's super easy. So I'm going to do that just like we are kids. We're just going to draw because we're using some kind of creamer to add some detail to our object. Now we need to refill, and we're going to continue. Why are you connecting those two? Why are you doing this to me? Okay. Now we're going to restart this, and we're going to try to constrain ourselves. Okay, threshold. And let's go for 5. Pick object. This is the object, and we're going to start using our freehand. Okay, thank you. For some reason, it didn't. Just when I was about to say something nice about 3ds Max, this is what it does. Okay, thank you. For some reason, it's trying. Maybe it's the orthographic view that's causing this. Okay, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to go for autogrid, and we're going to do it easier, because now I'm going to be cutting this and just starting over because at that point we wasted a bit of time, and we're online, so I don't want to look too silly. Let's continue. Okay, we've got some ornaments, and we're just going to start adding the same modifiers we did, but first we want to go for normalize spline. That's going to be the first one. Once we normalize it, we want to lower the size a little bit, so it's going to add a little bit smoother looks to it. You can pretty much see that it looks quite fantastic. Before we even continue, we can also weld those parts here, so it's going to look just a little bit better. So fuse, weld, and we can do the same here, fuse, weld, and we can now normalize it, and you can see that now it really looks like a child drew it. So thank you, it's me. Do you prepare? Okay, SketchUp is rookie, 3ds Max is pro. Okay, okay, there's a lot of okay, I got carried away. Complicated program, difficult to sketch up. Can I send you some projects from my portfolio for a second opinion? I'm using 3ds Max for 6 months. So Elias, we're going to be creating this kind of portfolio of reviews monthly, so you can send it once we post a link to the review. So it would be nice because we've got special email, special form. Then we're going to go over it online so we can actually get everything. Also, if you are thinking about joining our training, send your portfolio to us because it's definitely going to be great to first see what we're dealing with. So once you join us, I will know whether you actually need our training or not, because let's be honest, sometimes people are just so pro, but they lack a little bit of confidence. Love it, doing great. Will this be available on YouTube? Yes, it is, and yes, it will. Yes, Pascal, creative design. Okay, do you prepare? Okay. Now, rookie SketchUp, why to learn modifiers to play with them in like in this webinar. That's exactly it. You're right, but it seems to be time wasting when I do something useless. Bird's tube, and that depends. What do you count as useless? Because you're learning, you're practicing, you're trying to get better. It's like when you're drawing, you don't just draw for money every time. You just like it, so you do it because you like it, and that's pretty much what you should be doing with 3ds Max. 3ds Max is a creative tool, and it's really going to be best to just have a little bit of fun with it from time to time. It doesn't bite, it really doesn't, so definitely recommending that. Okay, integral lights. What's the best way to lit interior space if you have a very small window, but you want to add natural light and keep some natural shadows? Well, you probably need a good HDRI or a nice setting, but it all depends on what your reference is. So if it also requires us to define what nice is. So once you have your reference, you're going to know how to use the correct lighting. If it's supposed to be just small light source and great light inside, where probably you're going to have to add a corona lights inside to fake it a little bit more. Sorry, but it's definitely going to be coming down to, well, what do you need? Okay, so let's go for a circle on this area. So it's going to be a nice way of adding some detail. Convert this to a editable poly. And now I'm going to show you a neat thing that I use all the time. We select an edge and we then go for modify selection and we can go dot ring. So we're going to be selecting each second ring. So let's make this bigger. And the rest is going to, smaller. And this ring is going to be obviously bigger. So we're just going to dot ring that. Okay. Chamfer all of those rings right now. So we're going to get a little bit chunkier detail. You can see that it already looks a little bit creamy to us. Okay. Perfect. And now we want to add our modifier list, so it's going to look nice and wobbly. So it's just one of the levels, and we can just now try doing more subdivisions and more levels. Okay, rotate it slightly. I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just creating something because we can. Let's add a small snowflake. Okay, like this. Let's go for that. And that's going to be a child's hand. So remember, we're not really going for super detail. It's just about making sure that we've got enough fun. Okay. Perfect. Now, what I want to do here is quite the same as we did at the top. So I'm going to go for Boolean, unionize, and before I add all the modifiers that I did use a second ago, I want to make sure that those parts are unionized. So the Booleans and all the rest is going to take care of the topology, or at least mess it up. So once I add the modifiers, this is going to look really nice because it's all connected together. So it's going to be a nice detail to add. Next, we're going to create some ornamental shapes. So a freehand, let's not use the constraint because for some reason it didn't like me today. So we're just going to create some swirls. Okay, perfect. And let's just continue creating more of those because those are going to look really nice once we add the creamy look to it. Okay, maybe those look a little bit too much like SpaghettiOs, but whenever you use your the freehand, you want to convert it into a double spline. That's the first thing. And you want to reattach all of those freehand elements you've added. Then normalize spline just to make sure that everything is nice and easy to control. You don't need too many polygons for objects like this. Okay. Perfect. You can also optimize spline, but that's not going to have the same result. Sometimes some elements are going to go a little bit bonkers due to the fact that some polygons or some vertices are going to be so close to one another, so that you absolutely have to go in there and correct them, because otherwise they will look like that forever, and that's going to render really badly. So once we have all the detail, we can now add our modifiers, and we've got some swirls just like a kid drew it. To make it actually look good, we're going to make sure that we mirror all of the elements, but on the y-axis. Okay, and let's move it so it's going to be next to the window. I could probably add a few dots here and there, but now it actually looks like somebody cared, and we just did it in seconds. Okay, so I think that all the details are added in. Now, I'm lacking a lot of the details in here, but let's see. I got the previous version with a few ornaments on the around the windows, so I hope you're going to forgive me for stealing those, but I think we all already know what ornaments, how to make those, so it's not going to be very educationally valid for you to wait for me to just click through those. Oh, by the way, I'm just going to steal that real quick, and let's go back to our scene. Okay, paste from, apply duplicates, auto-rename. Okay, so here we can see that the scale of the previous one and the new one are different, but this is not going to be a problem for me because I'm going to be using this regardless. We can just rescale those ornaments real quick. Okay, perfecto, and we just need to remove or reposition some of those parts. Perfect. Great. Now move it here and let's make sure that it melts inside. So, okay. Sorry for taking this long. We're going to move to rendering in a second, and I'm going to try to take care of the chat because I see that there's a lot of things. I demand UVW mapping and unwrapping. There was a video on it already, but if you want, we can get a little bit more videos on that topic because it was just we scratched the surface. Would love to see more tutorials about UVW mapping and unwrapping in the future. I will make those, and I don't mean plain geometry, but light shape in a plane. Okay, I love using FFD. Demand using. Okay, that's. Okay, I see that somebody is sending me ornaments in a chat. No, that's just some Arabic language that I don't understand. So, well, nice to have you. I see. Mihao, are you literally... Okay, that's Google Translate for sure. Can you show us how to use Corona Tiles Randomizer just by using one picture? Corona Tiles Randomizer, yeah, sure, in a second. How do you use Max Data Channel modifier to create a facade for different building shapes? It seems a nice tool. Yes, I do use it from time to time, but it's one of those gimmicky tools where you kind of need to have the mathematical object that you want to recreate, and you can kind of program it, but it's not really going to be that useful for some objects that are less mathematical in that sense. Sad snowflake. Was it sad? I don't think it was sad. Okay, I'm going to make it happy in a second. You make such a radio voice, great voice. Thank you very much. Do you guys? You guys should appreciate the tutorials more by clicking like. Thank you. You're like my number one chat member today. That's super nice of you. And those are quality tutorials for free. A like would be nice. Okay, thank you. That's so nice of you. Been modeling since 2021 as a hobby, and it's the first time I listen it and actually stay. This is a great one. Thank you. Thank you. Pascal, that's so nice of you. It's so nice of you, Miha, as well. I'm really, well, I'm humbled. It's great to hear some positive feedback. I once said it during a different live stream that I always I always imagined that once I start doing some 3D in online, everybody's going to hate me because, well, it's online, and people kind of tend to be a little bit more harsher when it comes to, well, any tutorials and overall online interactions. But so far, I'm extremely lucky to have you guys as my audience because it's really lovely to spend time with you. I kind of feel like I'm hanging out with some friends and talking like... I used to work in offices, and one part of working in an office that I actually liked was working with other people. Now it's happy. So working with other people allowed me to kind of have a little bit of conversation. That also taught me how to talk and model at the same time. So yeah, I wasn't really focusing on my job too much. But this also allows me to stream to you guys, and now once we have a little bit of conversation, the only thing that I wish would be possible is to actually listen to you guys like on a normal call or on a podcast. That would be super cool to just have the conversation. Okay, so what plugin are you using to copy ornaments from one file to another? Sarah, that plugin is called Copy2, and it was a paid plugin that I bought on... I actually think I got it when it was actually for free. It was on 3D Sky, and the website actually also has plugins there. But right now, I believe that the creators of this script actually moved it to 3D Ground, and it's a little bit enhanced, better, but also it's now a paid software. So I was just a little... Oh, you actually can download it for free. So yeah, you can download it, and it allows you to copy paste from one scene to another. Super easy, super fast, and really recommend that because it's just a huge time saver. So since I've made this in a different scale, I'm just going to collapse all of this into editable poly right now. So editable poly, and we're going to do some, no, you know what? I'm not going to be attaching it. Let's just group this, make this smaller and place it on a pedestal so we can put it in our scene. So it's actually going to be nice and easy to render. So in a second we're going to be rendering it, but first we need to prepare our materials. But to really be able to create those materials, I first need to make sure that we've got our object finished. So let's just examine it. Okay, I didn't do any detail at the back, but you can see that it kind of doesn't need it. So we're going to pretend that it's not there. Okay. I like it. I really like it. I went a little bit freehand on many elements here, but it looks nice. So copy to. Okay, so the pedestal is just for me that to make this a little bit easier for myself. Okay, convert to editable poly real quick, and now we're going to yet again copy this object, go to the main scene where I've got everything prepared. So it's a very simple scene that I can walk you through, so there's no surprise waiting for us. First of all, I've downloaded a simple Christmas tree, which is white, and that's pretty much my background. So I'm not even manipulating it, rather changing some properties of the materials so it's nice and translucent, but also it has those teeny little lights around here. So those are very crucial for me. So I'm going to walk you through my process of making Christmas lights, because this is actually something that I like using a lot. So one thing that you should probably consider is adding Corona multi-map into a material like this, because you don't want all of your lights to be identical. I mean, you kind of do, but with a certain degree of, let's say, variety. So what you want to do is, are you going to bake those patterns into normal map later? So the time property. We could do a baking tutorial on, later for that, but to be honest, it's not going to be necessary because we're just doing a close-up shot. So I'm going to be keeping it high poly. I know that right now your head is probably spinning because what, a model that has so many polygons? Yeah, because it's a gingerbread house. It's a decorative object, and 500,000 polygons is not that much, because we can always proxify this and use it as a very simple object. I can also optimize it if it's going to be further away from my camera, so I do not need to use normals on it, but it would be a more pro setup if we would. Okay. I only noticed that this stream was having a break on building my bridge. Nearly finished building the supports at the moment. Great! I suppose you could have done those patterns in Mudbox. Yes, you could do those in Mudbox, but remember, we're doing 3ds Max tutorials, so all of the sculpting could be done really fast and without using different software. But I don't want to jump from one software to another, since we can do everything in 3ds Max. Yes, sculpting is way easier in Mudbox, and Mudbox is also part of Autodesk student suite that our students are now eligible for. So if you want to join our training, just go ahead and visit VizAcademy Co. UK. We're all introverts. I suppose you could. Yeah, we kind of are. So that's something that is quite fantastic, that introverts can get fixated on, let's say, tasks that will not be, let's call it mundane, but I noticed that when it comes to people that are more, let's say, introvert, they tend to be more solid when it comes to focusing on their work. It's just that it's easier to get hooked on your work that way, and that's something that I really love about my personality. I'm actually an introvert, so yeah. Okay, so now looking at this object without any bokeh effect, you can see that each light looks exactly the same. So if I'm going to use my multi-map and add a little bit of gamma randomization, I'm going to overdo it. You can see that all of those lights now have different shades. So if we're going to force this by, let's say, 15%, we're going to see that all of those lights now have more interesting shades. Still, turning on the depth of field back, you can see that now this looks so
so much more natural. It's just the difference between night and day. I typically, when creating bokeh effect like this, I try to make sure that I go for a maximum of 10% because I still want to retain my composition. So 10 to 5%, 5% to 10 is just ideal. Look at that. Before we added any gamma randomization, this was very uniform. It was still nice because it's a warm color, so it's nice to look at. But that 5% of gamma randomization is just the difference between the night and day. And I'm going to show you a super duper trick in a second using the same method, but let's just isolate selection. Show you the whole scene, and we're going to remake some of the materials in a second. So let's continue. I used a million polygons on a car wheel. Yeah, so that's a little bit much. Surely you should change the size. You should use Xform on it. I did. I already did use the reset Xform for that. Let's see. Mike, another question here. How much we should charge for modeling and visualizations? I know it depends on the size of the project and also on a region. Will be helpful for someone new. So, Jahangir, I must say that you kind of answered your own question. It depends, but since I want to, I don't want to give you a neutral no answer. I'm going to say this. Calculate. If you're going to be working for a client from, let's say, your area, your country, try to calculate how much does a person on, let's say, doing your job typically earns per month. Then calculate how much would you earn as that 3D designer per hour. Then try to estimate how much time will you need to model something. I know that it's impossible to tell. Sometimes a lot of companies will do the open contract where you then charge per hour to them. You just invoice them how many hours you spent on the project, but at the same time you cannot give special prices per let's say some kind of specific work. So you kind of get hired by them that way. But I also use this calculation to think about my projects. I know that modeling a house like this, for example, would take me approximately 2 hours from scratch. So I'm going to calculate my 2 hours of time, then an hour to create the model, and then rendering. So it would be a total of 4 hours to complete this project if I'm not going to get any redos. So this is the lowest you can go. But then calculate how many clients do you have? Do you is the work aligned and you've got many clients waiting for your work? It all depends. But overall, you should be charging approximately £300 per image, depending on the quality. So it's not going to be really possible for me to tell you how much should you be charging per image, per project, because it depends on the project scope. I can give you some examples how much I would really charge per specific elements if I would be working for, let's say, a client from UK, for a client from America, Australia, for a client from different countries, different pricing, obviously. But that all doesn't only come with, let's say, I'm going to charge you more because you're from that funny country. It's not that. It's probably going to be also related to the legal reasons. You're going to have to be paying a lot more taxes by working with somebody abroad. If they're not from your immediate neighborhood, you're probably going to get some penalties for that. But most importantly, what if something goes wrong? If you are in UK and you work with somebody from, let's say we had somebody from Brazil, how am I going to get my money from somebody from Brazil if they try to trick me? So it's going to be a big let's say a big well, there's a lot of questions to be answered before you can charge, and it's impossible to just say, yeah, £300 is the minimum, but what for? What resolution? What quality? It's all, and what's the deadline? All those things combined. Yeah, I typically talk about this a little bit more with my students during the training. So this is something that we have enough time to go in depth, to really go over, but it's all going to be, that depends really. Okay, I use plugin called Smart Refs, which means you can make your scene with reference instead of having huge bloated scene. That's cool. I just use use proxies instead. Surely you can change the size. Okay. I use million polys, a car wheel. Okay, agree. Another question. The way you added the patterns is the same way I did when I was building Time Machine from the 1960 movie. Nice, to break into market without asking for less. Slate material editor. So first thing you can do for yourself if you want to break into market without asking for less than people usually charge, calculate how much is the person on a similar position going to earn per month, then divide it into how many hours it's going to take. That's going to give you a good estimate. That's the best answer I can give you, but it's all going to come down to that depends. Slate material editor or basic material editor. I am 100% for a slate material editor. It has so many cool options that even now, if I would be a little bit of an, let's say, a-hole, I could do something that in the compact material editor is impossible. I can now package those materials and I can pretend that I'm a magician, that yeah, I have a super specific material setup for this element and I'm gonna show it to you. But honestly, it's just one of those things that are super cool. So let's talk about our house, how to set up the gingerbread house materials, and we're going to just paste in our object. So now we examined the scene. It's a super duper easy to set up, but we definitely need to make sure that the object is in the right position for the and we also need to make sure that all of the elements are going to be correctly mapped. Plus, we're going to make sure that everything is going to be correctly lit. Okay, it's actually almost in the right position. It's going to make my work a little bit easier. Okay, let's do that. Rotate it slightly. I think this angle is going to work really nice. I'm just trying out things. So first, let's render this out to check if we have any critical errors in our model. So object properties, let's clear out everything. And now I'm going to show you something that I really think everybody should start using. So Meta Scene presets, add your object. This is going to be the list of all the objects that my let's say house is made out of. And now what I can do is go back to my render setup really quickly, and without missing a beat, I can click here and select the list of objects and just apply it. Yes, you can also add it by the plus, but you're not always in the luxury of actually clicking those elements one by one or selecting those. But you can actually do a list and reuse it many times. Okay, so once again, we only include this house because I don't want to override anything in the scene itself. Okay. Send them render and get the money up front before you send the model. That would be a good idea to do it, but what I prefer doing is to be upfront with my client. I send them a zip file with a password and a lower resolution file with some thumbnails on it. So the watermarks are going to make this file unpostable, unusable, because I literally say this project was not paid for. To make sure that this watermark disappears, pay for the password. And once they pay me with money, I get to give them the password. Okay, this looks quite cute. Now, the lighting is super simple. So the background is obviously some lights that I've shown you, so nothing special. Here we've got one key light, the spotlight, which is going to be white. So it's going to give us a little bit extra effect on the front. So it's just going to allow us to have nice atmosphere. But on the side, I've got a square light with also some directionality. So the shadows are sharp. But at the same time, I do not get to, let's say, The sharpness of the shadows is important for me because I don't want too ambient light. If the light is going to be full of ambience, the shadows are going to lose those nice black spots that we have right here, and it's going to kind of lose the detail. But it's time to add the materials. So let's go. This is our house, and we're going to be adding all of those materials one by one. We kind of need to only create mostly like 3 materials for this: the gingerbread material, white material, and red material. So it's super easy to do. Before we added actually we're going to create 4 materials. First, to have the biggest impact on our object, I'm going to ungroup everything, ungroup, and we're going to select the gingerbread parts. So it's going to be our house, our chimneys, and also our roof. So those are going to be the easiest elements to add. Here we add it in. Okay, and first thing I'm going to do is to add a bitmap. That's going to be Corona bitmap that we typically use for this kind of scenes. And it's just going to be a simple output. So again, it's textures, and yeah, I'm going to be using gingerbread diffuse texture that I created, but that's going to be up to you. It's a super simple texture. It doesn't have much detail. It's partially generated, partially it's from photos. It's a mix and match, really. So here we're going to just apply it, and that's it. Not really, because part of our object looks good, but the rest of it doesn't. So what part does look good and the rest, yeah. You can see that some textures are stretched and some are just misplaced, so definitely needs correction. Or does it? We don't need to care about it. Why? Because we're lazy, and we're going to save us a little bit of time. We're going to right click, go for change material map type, and we're going to select maps, then go to Corona and go for Corona 3 planar map. What does a Corona 3 planar map do in this kind of situation? Well, it allows us to quickly map our object, but without the need of actually using any UVW mapping. It just creates the texture projection, but based, let's say, from the world position level, and it completely ignores mapping of your object. So long story short, I just mapped the object and it's clean. But because this object also is going to look nice if we're going to add a little bit of, let's say, if we avoid texture repetition, I'm going to make sure to change material map type and also add the mapping randomization. Keep textures up a submap, and we're just going to click on this, a mesh element, so each element of our object is going to have its own individual mapping. Then we're going to go for from to 1, from to 1. Then we rotate our map in 360 on Z-axis or W-axis. And if you feel very adventurous, you can also add a little bit of scaling, but I typically don't. So that pretty much allows me to give my object the right mapping for free. And let's try it out by simply rendering this with our lights turned on. So although I have all the objects hidden, I'm going to also render hidden lights, so it's easier for me to render everything, and it's just going to be nice and easy. Okay, looks quite cool. So now I need to reverse my selection and just select everything else which was supposed to be white-ish, and we're going to apply the second material. Yes, I know that this is a bare bones material that doesn't look that fantastic, because we can do much more to it. For example, add normals and some displacements, but it's a beginner friendly tutorial, so I hope that you can forgive me for not going into some super specific details of all the materials. Now we want to change the roughness of both materials. First, the roughness is can be understood as reflection blur. If we have a lot of roughness on our surface, that means that the object is going to be coarse and it's not going to have a lot of reflection. Look at that. Right now, I've got this very yummy looking reflection right here, but if I'm going to increase the roughness, what I'm going to be getting is no reflection at all. It all depends on what you prefer to have, but in my case, I want this to look as yummy as possible. So we're also going to add just a little bit of shine onto our main object, because it's also going to have a little bit of it. So roughness 0.4, so we get some reflection. Also, you can see that it looks fantastic. A trick that's going to integrate all of our elements a little bit better to one another. You can see that here it's quite cool. Okay, let's focus on our camera here. You can see that it looks nice, but all the elements kind of have a bit bad detail from time to time. So what we can do is apply another specific map that is part of Corona, and it's called Corona Round Edges. So Corona Round Edges, we apply it. What is very important is whenever you will be using Corona Round Edges is to set your bump exactly to 1. You don't change this value, you don't manipulate it. 1 is what you go for. Okay, so the gingerbread doesn't show much effect yet, but we're going to go for base bump in our second option, and you can see that now we've got a little bit of a nicer ending. It's a little bit rounded up, and it looks really great. Also, what's going to be super cool about this is that it allows us to mimic a little bit of better integration. If the objects are touching one another, you can see that there's a slight amount of that small shape change. You can see that those are integrating with one another very nicely, and we can see that there's a lot of cool detail showing up. Okay, so now what do we do next? I kind of got this reflection on the roof of my building for free, but I don't want this to only have the reflection, so we're going to be lowering the roughness actually, we're going to go higher on the roughness on the gingerbread house, because I want to slightly add some kind of sprinkle on top of it. So let's go for 55. So now there's less reflection, but it's there's still a lot of it. Okay. I am faster with the compact editor. They both do the same thing. Although I have played with the slate editor, I started in 3ds Max 2029 when there wasn't a slate editor. Yeah, I started the same, almost the same way. I mean, there was no slate material editor, but there is something that compact material editor is just not going to allow you to do. If I'm going to have 10 different textures, I can quickly connect them and change anything about them. While in compact material editor, you're going to have to go in and copy, paste, remember where you have the instances, and that's really going to be something super duper annoying. So that's definitely going to be a minus part of a compact material editor. Compact material editor also has its own merits, but definitely slate material editor, due to the fact that it has many views, and right now for some reason that is really something that I cannot explain. They took away, oh actually no, it is still here, but it takes longer. So I thought that they took away the ability to move materials from one view to another, but now it works, but it just takes longer. So yeah, you cannot do that with your compact material editor. Are you going to unwrap the house first? No, it's just easier to do it this way, because this is going to be much easier. Does it look like a chocolate house? Maybe, because it's now very dark in here. So wow, the cream alone. So if we get all the lights and reflections bouncing from our environment, it is going to be slightly brighter, but we're going to change the material further to make it more interesting in a second. Are you going to unwrap? In V-Ray, I usually add the HDRI map in dome light. We actually can do that, but it's not necessary for this scene. I also have an HDRI for my reflections here, but it's not something that is necessary for this specific scene, so I just don't. So wait a second, it's loading. So does it look like chocolate? Nah, I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't look like chocolate to me. Guys, a quick poll on our chat. Let me know, does it look like chocolate? If it does, we're going to make it brighter. So we got our material, right? So I want to have a little bit of more complicated material for the roof alone, because I want to sprinkle some sugar on top of it, like the snow, like it was snowing. Right now the reflection is kind of doing it for me. It looks like ginger. Thank you. Hello, sir, from India. Not tired corona, not tried corona before. I'm a very guy. Try it. It's really. I want. No, it's okay. I love chocolate. Okay, so let's go. Now, what's also quite amazing in the newest version of Corona. Actually, we're not using it right now, but and we can add multiple outputs for our maps. I'm going to be using this later on if we have enough time, but it's definitely going to be something to behold because, well, that's one of those options that you just want to look at and kind of you won't understand how we could live without it before, especially if you are using Corona already. So, okay. Let's wait for the materials to load. It doesn't look like chocolate. Maybe it could be a little lighter, in my opinion. Sarah, I'm going to add a little bit of brightness to it then, so everybody's going to be a bit more satisfied with my gingerbread house. So it's actually ours now. So 1.1 in gamma, that's going to quickly lit this object up, so it's going to be more bread-like or more closer to what we actually need. By the way, I forgot to tell you that whenever we use our 3D planner mapping, our mapping is no longer going to be displayed in the viewport, which is a little bit of a pity. But what we can do here is have a global option to change any kind of values if we want to. So I'm going to increase the scale to 200 millimeters on my texture, and right now you can see that it's trying to load, but I think my computer is getting a little bit tired due to the fact that we're streaming, rendering, modeling at the same time. So it's we're going to give it a second. Meanwhile, what I wanted to do is prepare the material for the roof. So I'm going to really quickly copy this physical material, go to Corona AO material, so Corona AO, so that's ambient occlusion. We're going to quickly apply this material to just the roof alone, but only the part of the ginger part, okay? And now we're going to use this AO map as our diffuse color. Definitely we need to lower the amount of distance because it's a small house. So let's go for something around 0.50. That's 5 centimeters. That's still too much. Let's go for 5 millimeters because that should be enough for us to work with. Okay, and just to be able to see the color difference, I'm going to change the red and green, so it's really easy to spot what's going on our house. So start interactive. Max 2024, yes, it's Max 2024, Ricardo, thank you. Right now, what I noticed is 2024 is better than each previous version, but it also has a little bit of I have a feeling that it slowed down a little bit. Maybe I'm doing a little bit more complex scenes over time, and this is only, my impression that I've got, but I really think that, oh, that kind of looks cool. I like it. Okay, so now we can see that there's a little bit of red coming from the streaks between the shingles of my house. So what I can do is add. That's one of the goofy things that 3ds Max 2024 can do. That's one of those things that definitely you don't get from. No, you actually can get this. Wait a second. Mode dockable, not dockable. Thank you. Okay, let's change this. Okay, that scared me. I'm going to have to make sure that my house is saved. Okay, let's just wrap it up. So I want to create that sprinkles, those sprinkles on top of my roof, but I want them to be, let's say, more in the corners. So we're creating sugar on top of our ceiling. So color spread, I'm going to set it to 1. So this color spread is going to be very direct and it's going to be more visible. 3ds Max. Sorry, just ate a little bit too much air. Sorry for that. With 3ds Max and Corona Render, can you work with realistic food modeling and rendering? Yes, sure you can. So sorry for that. Now let's continue. That's going to require actually adding a little bit of subsurface scattering into your workflow, but it's definitely going to be possible. So okay, we've got that nice transition of colors. You can see that it looks nice, and we gather more red color around the corners. So that's going to be our cue to add the right values in there. So first of all, I'm going to use the same material that we used a second ago. Let's just put it here so it's easier for you guys to see. Unoccluded color, so we're going to put it here. So that's the unoccluded version of the color. We could actually make it a little bit darker, so it's going to have more contrast, but it doesn't matter. So now we're going to have the red color pouring onto our brownish color of our roof. So it's going to look and work. You know what? Let's just find what we don't need real quick. So it's going to load much faster. I kind of don't like the fact that we have to wait for this long to get all of the details. So now it looks nice, and it actually looks like nice ginger. So what we want to do here is, you know what? Let's go for 3 millimeters. So now corner round edges adds a very nice effect of rounded up edges, which kind of makes it more believable. So that's a cool thing to have. But now let's continue and not get distracted. So first, let's change this color to the same color we have for the rest of our object. So stop. Let's make sure that we change the color. So value saturation goes down. Color white remains, and I want to ensure that I also have a little bit flaky feeling here. So I'm going to go for a map, one of the noise maps or one of the general maps that we can use. Well, everybody can use it, so it's going to be easier. We're either going to go for cellular, dent, or any other similar map that's going to have a bit of spots in it. So let's go for cellular. In this case, it's going to be the perfect sugary texture. So let's change the spread a little bit. So lower it. So white and black spots are here. Bump smoothing goes up a little bit, but not too much. We leave it as it, and we're going to apply it as our AO distance. That way, we're going to be able to notice that the details on our roof are now placed in specific spots. It's like we really were very messy with it, but I'm going to make sure that the size of my chips are going to be way smaller. So now we can see that we're actually sprinkling a little bit of sugar on top of our roof. We can also improve the looks of it by adding 1 more centimeter here, and now we spread all of that sugar on top of it, and it's only going to be residing where the contact with other objects is. So thanks to the fact that it's procedural, it's going to look absolutely amazing. On top of that, I could add additional bump for this, so the sugar is going to be standing out a little bit, but that's going to be excessive. So let's just go back. Finally, we can start our render. Yes, we're missing a few details like a fence, small Christmas trees, but this is pretty much going to make this scene still look amazing. If you have any further questions, let me know right now. And looks a little bit ambient occlusion in here. That's actually ambient occlusion. That's exactly what it is. So Corona AO is a Corona ambient occlusion. What makes that a nice occlusion under the white tile pattern? That's exactly Corona ambient occlusion. So that's the map, the green-red map that I was setting up just so we can get a bit of that. But to really get the effect, I made sure to use cellular map to create that extra effect. And now, just as a creme de la creme, I'm going to show you that one extra thing that I promised with bokeh effect, because that's going to be something that everybody's going to enjoy, as it's not hard to do. And look at that, it actually looks so cool. And now, I shouldn't be congratulating myself, but I am kind of proud of it, because that looks so nice. I kind of like Christmas. So now we're going to do the last trick, meaning Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please type them in right now, because that's going to be, well, our last chance to take any questions. Later, we're just going to disconnect. Meanwhile, I would also like you to make sure to leave a like right now. Make sure to also subscribe to our channel and support us by sharing this video with as many friends of yours as you can, because that's going to be definitely helpful for us in the future, as it shows the algorithm that you like us. So, bokeh fake heart. How do we do that? How do we add it? What you need to do is create a nice texture like this one with a heart shape, a book shape, whatever you're going to want to use. And now we're going to just open it. Nothing changes yet because I haven't added it right now. We're going to now go to our history. Please don't. Oh no. So it actually blew up. And now let's just make sure to select our Corona, select camera, and wait a few seconds for the render to get here so we can see the difference. I know you're going to see it, but I kind of want to show it to you as with comparison. So let's go ahead and create our bladed. Okay, waiting. Any moment now. Go. Yes, so let's wait a few seconds for it to render. Awesome tutorial, thanks. Did you have a video where you made the scene? No, but if you want, we can also go over it. But the scene is so simple. I mean, those are just two glasses that I found as freebies, so it's super simple to get. If you want to get the whole setup, we can actually do a quick tutorial on how to do it, but it's really a box with wood texture on it. As I said, a downloaded object for my Christmas tree, and really something to think about is only the house that we made. So start current, stop, okay, and now we're going to do the tricky trick. Let's go to custom, apply it in, okay, and instance. Let's reload our scene to render because my computer is getting sweaty right now. So that's going to be just a few seconds more. Did you have the video? Okay, click the click like under the video. Thank you. Already have. I shared the link in the 3ds Max Discord. Cool, Pascal. That's. I hope that I want to get to that Discord probably to see the reaction. Really, thank you. That's highly appreciated. So let's wait for the effect to take place. It's going to take us a few seconds. And now what is going to be absolutely amazing is we've created a totally custom bokeh effect that's only going to be visible when my computer allows us to, but I think it's getting sweaty right now, but it's actually quite cold. So come on. Okay, now that's what I wanted to show you. So we created custom heart-shaped bokeh that looks absolutely adorable, and this is going to be absolutely amazing for your Christmas shots. So if you want to create your own custom postcard for your friends, family, this is probably the best way to do it. Now, remember, depth of field and bokeh effect are going to be best achieved with very narrow lenses. That means higher number. So I might recreate something similar to this as a cute Christmas card to post. Sarah, if you will, please make sure to email it to us. We're going to give you some feedback on it and maybe help you make it even better. Love the hearts. I also love it, and this effect is absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, show origin post-processing. Okay, yeah, I did it. Now, hearts are amazing, adorable, and just lovely. The last thing that I wanted to show you was the bokeh. So right now, all I need to ask you to do is remember about us. So go to our website, that's VizAcademy Co. UK, if you want to become one of my students. We go through our training looks like this. We have a 7-week course with prepared videos for each topic, starting from modeling, going to lighting and materials, then post-production and rendering. probably in the different order because you have to render before you add a post-production. Then once we're done with our interiors, we're going to be starting our 2-week journey for exteriors. At that time, you're well prepared for the whole thing, and our students currently are finishing up their exteriors. So if you want to become our student, make sure to do that. We have 3 webinars per week. Also, we have online support 7 days a week, so you'll be able to ask questions to our support and enjoy a little bit of a chat with them. Our support is well seasoned and ready to have a little bit of fun with you. This is it for today. So guys, hope that you enjoyed this short video. I mean, it was more than 2 hours, so sorry for taking this long, but I think we all had fun, and luckily 3ds Max didn't crash even once, which is quite fantastic. Once again, thank you for your attention, for all of your questions, and really thank you for this amazing support. Where can I send my portfolio to make sure I need to join your course? Send it to VizAcademy Co UK. So that's going to be Notepad. Okay, let's type in the email. So that's info at. Okay, so that's pretty much what you want to go for. Info VizAcademy Co UK. Add some kind of paragraph, title, portfolio question, or something like this, so we can quickly get to it. And this is it. So thank you very much for your attention. See you next time. In probably a week, we're going to do some more architectural stuff, but maybe also Christmas themed. So once again, thank you for the 3rd time already. And this is it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.